it's like a food court and everyone has samples, but the samples everyone is giving is something not positive. So
Right.
we look at the news. Breaking news: Iran just bombed United States bases. Breaking news: President Trump. It's like all of these things are just coming upon us, and we're just absorbing it. So what happens is our spirit just gets so fatigued, and it gets
Mhm.
so weary, and we just concede, and eventually we're just like, you know what? I'm tired. But if our spirit is one of my favorite books, The Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl, and he talks about the difference between the people who survived the Holocaust and the people who didn't was the
Mhm.
ones who had stronger spirits. They were all going through the same suffering and the same challenges, but the difference that separated those who survived it and wrote about their survival was the one who had strong spirits.
Hi, I'm Dr. Mo Anderson, author, speaker, and podcast host. In this spot, real talk meets real growth. Each week, I sit down with experts, creatives, and change makers for conversation and sometimes make you laugh out loud. If you're ready to grow up, glow up, and go further, hit subscribe and let's move. Hey, everybody, welcome to Perpetual Motion. What if the reason you feel stuck is not that you lack intelligence, ambition, or options, but that you have never been taught how to design a decision, right? Design a decision. My guest today is David Prosper, founder of the Clarity brand, TEDx speaker, and creator of a system that helps people recognize the patterns shaping their choices. He believes we can stop living by default and begin making decisions with greater clarity, confidence, and intention. David, welcome to Perpetual Motion.
Dr. Mo, thank you so much for having me. That was a solid intro. I was like, okay, I got to live up to that one.
My guy, come with it now. I've set you up. Only you can bring it down. I'll set you up. And
Thank
I
you.
think well deserved in my interaction with you and reviewing your website and seeing all the testimonials. You are doing a good thing. I'm proud of you.
I'm here to serve. Thank you so much.
You say that clarity is our human operating system. I've never heard that before. Explain it to me. What does that mean?
That's a great question. And when I say clarity is our human operating system, we're created by design for to design. So I believe our relationship with God as a co-creator. But when we get into this world, we come into a world that we inherit a lot of things. Like we inherit ideologies, we inherit religion, we inherit systems that often are engineered to distract us, to create us, to facilitate us being compliant versus creative. So when we get back to original design, we get back to clarity. And I truly believe when our design is to be clear because we're in that most present, our soul is living, we're flowing, but our world and so many things have engineered us in a way that we're now adopting a lot of patterns that allows us to live in default and keeps us distracted, ultimately suppressed and not living our best lives.
Wow. Wow. I can see that. And there's nothing I can disagree with about that. Well said. David, you also describe your work as, and I love this, a diagnosis rather than coaching. What are you diagnosing and how is it different from coaching?
Let's go. This is a good one right here. So like coaching often focuses on the symptoms. And when we diagnose it, the approach that I take is I've been inspired by doctors. Like before you get any type of prescription or any type of procedure, what a doctor does, they do an extensive amount of clarification, asking questions. They have you fill out 18 pages of paperwork, right? Each
Hmm.
time and then when you come in, they ask you another series of questions and they're running all of these tests. And even if they have a hypothesis of what's happening, they clarify and verify and they never assume. So that approach has inspired me. How do I take that same approach when I'm interacting with founders, leaders, and builders? Is really understanding what is the root belief system that is happening before I address the fruits and the symptoms that of how we act. So if we can address the roots, then we can change the fruits.
Love that. Love that. And the reference to healthcare. I am a healthcare provider over 3 decades as a dentist. And that hypothesis is actually called a differential diagnosis. And those
Okay.
clarifying questions get us to a definitive diagnosis. So we go from the broad to the
Yes.
precise and applying it to decision making in general, because that's what we're doing, makes a lot of sense. And part of that, as you explained it so eloquently, part of what makes that successful is the honesty and transparency from the person we're getting the information from. Is that also true in what you're doing to help your clients?
110%. The fact that you verified that what I was saying has some substance to it. I often tell my clients, whatever gets revealed gets healed, and we can't heal what doesn't we don't identify. So a diagnostic, it has like the connotation that is non-judgmental versus, okay, I'm gonna assess you, because assessment has this, I'm either wrong or right, I'm either good or bad. Diagnosis is, this is where I'm currently at, and where you're at is a beautiful things because you can know your next right step from where you're at. So 100%.
100%. Walk us through, or I'm not trying to get you to give your whole framework away because I'm not trying to get in your money, but can you walk us through some of the clarity framework, or give us some example of how it works and how someone would use it when facing a difficult decision?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say the C5 model that I talk about in my book, Finding Clarity, is the first C is capacity. Oftentimes, when people are frustrated, it's because they have very low margin. So they are overwhelmed and they don't have the capacity. So, like, first assess, like, well, do I have space in this season of my life? So capacity is number one. The second thing is competency. Do I have the skill set to do the thing that I want to do, or do the thing that I'm doing right now? So we have to build the ability to do the thing. And then the third C is courage. Am I willing to step out in faith, out in spite of fear, get out of my comfort zone to become the version of myself that I want to be, not who I was? And then the fourth C is connection. Who and what am I connected to? Because I believe the greatest investments are relationships and the worst investments are relationships too. So my grandfather would always say, "Tell me who your friends are, I'll tell you who you become." So what am I connected to, and who am I connected to determines where who I become. And then the last C in the C5 model is curiosity. Are we staying in that state of exploration, like being curious about asking questions? What's happening? How does this work? Why is this happening? And if we stay in that state, Einstein talked about, in order to be a genius, you have to be obsessed about that thing. And I think oftentimes we make statements and make a confirmation versus we're clarifying and being curious. So if we practice knowing our capacity, building our competency, stepping in courage, finding our connection, and being curious, I believe we'll be living in design.
I'm sure we will. In regards to your first C, capacity, and I think we kind of alluded to this in the conversation before this conversation, in me talking about needing to maintain my balance. And I think I have a lot of professionals who are listening, and I know that's an issue. But if you look at that and you don't see that you have the capacity, but you think that this thing you want to move to or this decision is the highest and best use of your time, does that mean you need to let something else go to create capacity, or is it just not the right time for your great new thing you want to do?
This is an interesting question because it requires a filtering system. And I believe when we have a filtering system of what season are we in. So if we think like business owners and how businesses run, there's quarters throughout the year, quarter one, quarter two. Is this a quarter one thing that we need to focus on? Is there a level of urgency if I don't take action here? And then I'm reading this new book called Essentialism. And in this book, it talks about how we need to practice this statement that I can do everything, but I can do anything, but I don't need to do everything. I can do anything, but I don't have to do
That's
everything.
good.
And and if we practice that statement, is this a right now thing, or can I push this off? So it's just determining the level of urgency and the alignment. Like, is this going to move the needle forward? Is this going to contribute to my highest level of contribution? or is it going to be a form of distraction that feels busy and productive, but actually doesn't move the needle? It's like checking your emails, right? You feel productive, but you're not really doing anything. You're just checking the
Right.
emails, right? You're not
Hmm.
building a business. So it's movement without progress, and that will be like the filtering process. Am I making progress or am I just moving? What are your thoughts on
Right.
that?
Right. I like that. I even got an image as you were saying that. I have 2 sons, they're adults now, but we went through so many little pets that I didn't want when they were younger, and one of them was is it gerbil or gerbil, whatever you call the little rat-looking things, running on that wheel,
Yeah.
and you're right. We can some people can spend so much time on the inbox and moving things around on their desktop and all you can take up hours and you have accomplished nothing. You haven't moved yourself toward your goals. And I'm a writer also. I write fiction and nonfiction. But in fiction, one of my mentors taught me because I was having difficulty editing. You write also, and it's like your baby. It's like you want me to cut this paragraph? That's a finger. My baby, but she said, and I'll never forget this. Laura said, "Your beginning, your ending, everything in between should be moving you toward the conclusion that you want. Does this paragraph do that, or did you just want them having dinner at this restaurant because it's one of your favorite places?" And I was like, "Okay, okay, I
Hmm.
see what you said." And the application, as you just asserted, applies to life. You should have goals. First of all, if you don't have any goals, that's part of your problem because you don't know where you're trying to go. Like me leaving from here to I don't know where, or me leaving from here to Dallas. Well, I'm not going to head toward Fort Worth. I'm going to Dallas. I need to go east, not west. And from there, it's easy if you keep the curiosity. I can't remember all the C's. I'm old, but they were good, and I'm gonna write them down. So, do you have clarity for seniors? You might
Yeah,
need 3 C's, bro. It might be 3.
it's fine. At first, it's a challenge, but just like with anything, right? It's practice, right? So
Right.
clarity is not knowing everything; it's just knowing the next right thing. So the fact that you said capacity, that's your next right thing, and that's okay. And then you
All
said
right.
curiosity, so you said 2 out of the 5. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. Thank you. Let's talk about the default loop and the design loop. I don't know if you trademark these terms, but you use them in your coaching and teaching. Can you explain what those are and what's the difference?
Yeah, the default loop is often when we're running and without clarifying why we're doing things. It's like when we're driving to work and we get to work and we're like, how did I get here? Like where
Yeah.
was I? So
Yeah.
we're in autopilot and we're very reactive in the default loop. So when, water spills or someone says something, we're triggered very easily. And then the last thing to identify how we're in that loop is how much are we consuming? When we're in a default loop, we're consuming so much. We become hoarders of everything, hoarders of bad relationships, hoarders of toxic things, hoarders of all of we're just consuming and we feel heavy. When we're
Mm,
living in the design loop, we're creating more. We're reflecting and responding versus reflecting and reacting. And then we're present where our feet are. And then we're designing our lives. And when I say designing our lives, one of the things I talk to my partner Krista about every morning before we both go to work is what's your intention of today? And living in a design life, like it's like, where's my North Star? What am I going to focus on? Whatever we focus on is our where our energy flows. So when we're in the design loop, we're present and we're active in our lives versus just going through lives and not knowing what's happening.
I love what you're doing with her as well because it gives you some accountability and hopefully you get the encouragement that you
Yes.
need from someone who really cares and it's not just going how to go, man, whatever. And just the motivation. What a great way to start your day. Let's be intentional and focus on something positive. I really like that. Let's talk about how fear, being tired, habit, and outside pressure can put you into that default loop. Because I think a lot of people are there and don't even realize it.
Yeah. Yeah, fear is never going away. That's the thing. I remember I was talking to one client. She was like, some days I just wish it was just easy. I was like, who told you that? Like, where'd you get this story from? It's just like, I don't know. I was like, yeah, probably Disney. Like there's this happily ever after. I was like, that's why all the Disney movies just end. They don't have like the series after. But when fear is constantly around us. It's in our mind, it's in our world, it's in the marketing, and fear sells because it's more marketable. If I tell you, hey, you should probably eat more vegetables, you're gonna be like, ah, that's a good idea, maybe. I'm like, if you're constantly eating fast food, you have a 72% chance of dying tomorrow. You're like, oh crap, I need to get some vegetables, right?
Right, that's
So
it.
so when we're in that state again, I read a quote somewhere. It was like, if you're not intentional about your life, someone else will control your life. So if we're constantly inundated with all these things that promotes fear, and we're tired, and we're not creating spaces of rest and restoration and releasing a lot of the things, what happens is we just again consume it. And one of my favorite books is The Body Keeps the Score, and the author constantly talks about we're just holding on to all these things. And I was talking to another client this week, and I was like, your next stage is moving from an absorber, because we absorb things, to an observer, like what's happening outside of me. So I would encourage everyone, when they're experiencing tiredness, to think about, where am I tired, why am I tired, where is this coming from? And the more we can question what's happening, the more we can understand how to diagnose the things, so we can better assess it and take the next step, versus saying, I'm just tired. Why? I don't know. I'm just tired. That doesn't lead us to become intelligent and intentional human beings. So I would say, if we take those steps, we can combat the tiredness a little bit and do things that restore us a lot more effectively.
Just expound on that a little bit for me because I think most people, when they say that, they're thinking physically tired, but it sounds like you mean emotionally, mentally, spiritually. Tell me more.
Yeah. Yeah. So I believe we're more spiritually tired before we're physically tired. And the physical is the expression of the internal. So we we participate in conversations that are low-hanging fruit. We tend to gravitate, there's a saying that misery love company. So we tend to gravitate towards seeing the worst sides of life. Like, you ask somebody how they're doing, I'm like, just hanging in there, just hanging in there. It's just like, bro, stop hanging. Like, that's not a good thing. Stop hanging. Just let the rope
Exactly.
go. It's like, that's hard work.
Fall
Just let it.
already.
Elsa said it best. Let it go. And or one of my favorites, like saying, just a different day. So we tend to, and what happens is, when our spirits are and our soul is constantly going around, it's like a food court, and everyone has samples, but the samples everyone is giving is something not positive. So it's like, we look at the news. Breaking news: Iran just bombed United States bases. Breaking news: President Trump. It's like all of these things are just coming up upon us, and we're just absorbing it. So what happens is, our spirit just gets so fatigued, and it gets so weary, and we just concede and concede. And eventually we're just like, you know what? I'm tired. But if our spirit is, one of my favorite books, The Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl, and he talks about the difference between the people who survived the Holocaust and the people who didn't, was the ones who had stronger spirits. They were all going through the same suffering and the same challenges, but the difference that separated those who survived it and wrote about their survival was the one who had strong spirits. So the things that we consume, the conversations, the content, just weighs our spirit down. So one of the things I often ask my clients each weekend: how are you going to renew your spirit? Not what you're
Mm,
going to do for your self-care. Now you're going to self-care, new me. That's cool. That's cool. But how are you going to renew your spirit? Because if you can renew your spirit, you can endure anything.
really, really, you can. And your mindset, your spirit, your resilience, it has an impact on your attitude, which is reflected in your vocabulary. I am a cancer patient, and I was at a conference recently with other people who have the types of cancer that I have, and I just saw a vivid example of what you're talking about. One woman had lost all her hair to radiation.
radiation, which is it happens and it is distressing for women, but that's all she could talk about was the loss of her hair. And the other woman had a similar thing. Her only concern was sunscreen, and she was saying, "I'm happy I don't have to do my hair anymore." Same situation.
Yes.
Two very different viewpoints, and you get to choose how you think about the things that happen in your life. It is we don't have to default into that. It's a choice how you want to view it. And it does make a difference in everything about your life going forward, your ability to adjust, reset, and keep it moving with clarity. With
Yes.
clarity. What's a practical step? Someone just hearing this, open to it, sounds good. Where do you start a simple first practical step to move from confusion and decision distress and second guessing yourself to confidence and clarity?
This is going to be one of the most profound things I've ever said. And the people listening, they're going to be like, oh my goodness, like we spent all this time to hear this. Our parents have been telling us since the beginning of our birth, clean your room, clean your house. So that's the first step, like clean your physical space. And once we can clean our physical space, then it allows capacity for our emotional space. Then the second thing that I would encourage anyone to do is there's a lot of low self-esteem that I hear and I coach and I work with a lot of people who deal with that. And the low self-esteem or the lack of confidence comes from the lack of trust. So if you say you're gonna do something, do it. Like, I'm gonna wake up at 5 AM. I have a rule for myself is like, I don't hit the snooze button. So if my alarm goes off the first time, I wake up the first time. And what that creates in me, like this neuroplasticity is like, I do the things that I said I was gonna do. I'm not gonna negotiate with myself. And a lot of us tend to negotiate, do I really wanna do this? It's like, no, I don't wanna do this, but I committed to doing this. So I do the thing. So if we can clear up our space, then be consistent in what we said we would do. The next thing would be who are we connected to? So connection looks like listening to podcasts like this, going to networking events that matches our vibe, being in spaces and places that that creates the mirror of where we're going and who we want to become. And if we can do those three things, then clarity becomes the outcome, not necessarily the starting point. And oftentimes we try to wait for clarity to come, but clarity is a pursuit. It's the next right step. Just like you were mentioning traveling to Las Vegas and doing a keynote. Like if you're driving from Las Vegas to Texas, you only know the roads in Las Vegas and you're focused on that. And then as soon as you get into a different state, you focus on your next right step. And that's all clarity is about.
Okay. Okay. I love that. I love that. You shared with me, we'll get a little personal here, that you're a Haitian immigrant. Is that
Yeah.
correct? Did I remember that correctly?
Son of a
And
Haitian immigrant. Yeah.
son of a Haitian immigrant. Okay, got it. Because I was like, I'm not hearing Haitian immigrant, but son of a Haitian immigrant, first generation. And we have a lot of immigrants in our country. This country was built by immigrants. Only the first Americans are actually Native Americans, contrary to popular belief, folks. If you haven't looked at your history, you need to look and see who was here first. But in this current environment, and I'm not doing a political podcast, everyone listening knows this is educational, but there's a lot going on, a lot of negativity, a lot of toxicity, not from everyone, but from some powerful places. And I want to know, what have you, as a Haitian, having Haitian roots, what have you learned about making decisions when external messages, forces, external powers suggest that the odds are against you?
This is a deep one. And there's a lot of emotions right now, especially in our country when it comes to what is ideal, what is right, what is wrong, what is just, what is injustice.
Mhm.
One thing I've learned from my mother, who's no longer here, is I watched my mom being a Haitian immigrant who came into this country, um, didn't speak any English, even to the point where she didn't speak English before she passed. It was broken English. And I seen her work her way to the point where she got her green card, then she got her citizenship. And I seen even my father who just got out of prison and he was like, I'm so glad I'm a citizen. And I was like, yeah, because Trump would have kicked you out, Dad. He's like, I was like, I was born here, so I'm American. I got you would have been kicked out. But we laugh about it. I think when we put our emotional weight on everything being absolute versus being curious, what's happening here? What's that mean for me? And how can I actually be part of the solution versus echoing the
Yes.
problem? And I think a lot of Americans, we're so beautiful in the diversity of thought. Like we have a lot of opinions. Everybody got an opinion. That's why when someone has a lot of opinions, like just start a podcast, right? That's your platform.
Yes.
Just do your thing and
Handle that.
bring
Find your
attention to it.
tribe, right?
Find your tribe and find your vibe. But I think when we're so married to our opinions and we're so married to this being the solution, right or wrong, what happens is it closes us off to the other opportunities. So my whole thing is, and then I know I'm sounding like it's hyperboles and I'm dancing around, but the point that I want to drive is when there's things that's outside of our control, why give energy to it? But if it's in our control, let's do something about it. So when it comes to immigration, when it comes to ICE, when it comes to a lot of the political volatility and the 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 pendulum of the swinging back and forth, I tend to focus, and I lead the youth and young adults here in the city. I tend to focus on where my feet planted and how could I influence positively the minds and the hearts of the youth and the people that I get to serve. Outside on the national level, I can't do anything right now. I'm not in that space. But whatever spaces and places that we're in where our feet are planted, how can we positively move the conversation forward? How can we educate? How can we support? So that's where I tend to spend a lot of my energy. Then everything else is just truly noise.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, that was a great answer. That was a great answer. Yeah, and being comfortable in yourself, confident in yourself, in your value, in your worth, because that's the other way that they get to you. If you don't have good self-esteem and you're under attack, then people change what you believe about yourself. This is another question that wasn't on my list. You've led me off in so many directions, and I love it. But I just before we talk about your coaching and writing and everything you're doing, because I definitely want you to share that. It seems to me that a lot of people have gone to online micro coaching, that some of their confusion is they're on TikTok listening to 90 different experts in 90-second, 60-second reels and getting conflicting advice. They don't even just follow one person, one qualified person. Anybody can get on there and say, I'm a life coach. I'm a financial this. I'm a what about that? What do you think about that? People doing that? It sounds like you and I share a love of reading. I have coaches in every area of my life as I coach and mentor people because we can all learn and grow. But what about these people who are just jumping all around? I feel like that's leading as well to some of the low self-esteem with the comparison to somebody who's not even being real, as well as hearing conflicting advice. So you kind of get that analysis paralysis. That was a long question, but you got it. I can see you
Yeah.
processing.
Yeah, I look at like one of the greatest leaders of all times. His name is Jesus Christ, and
Yeah.
he
Hello.
he he talks about the tariff and the wheat, and he says, don't try to separate it. And I look at the same when we look at the coaches online giving their opinions, and again, everyone's entitled to it. That's the beauty about diversity of thought. But he says, don't try to separate it. He says keep it because if you pull it too quickly, it can come undone and it causes this rift. So when I hear there's a lot of speakers and there's a lot of content consumers of listening to these 60-second reels and just like trying to get this new understanding, I think that's a beautiful start because it at least puts them in the space to pursue something else.
Mhm.
And when we're in that space of our next right step, then we can understand, okay, what resonates with me, what doesn't resonate with me. It's like I remember when living in Milwaukee and I would see there was two experiences where I was driving on the highway and I seen a car and a guy standing outside having his thumbs up, and he was trying to get assistance, and every car was just driving by. Then as I'm pulling to my apartment downtown, I see a guy who's pushing his car on neutral. And I get out of my car, a couple other people get out of their car, and we just help move the car. So it's easier to push a car on neutral than pushing a car in park. So if someone's out there consuming content to see how to navigate life, they're at least moving. And you can do something with that. That's a river. Like you could just now you just navigate it. But if somebody just parked that hole, it's like there's nothing out there for me. There's no steps. It's just like, bruh, go and seek and you shall find. So that's how I feel about the content that is out there. But and then deeper than that, I talked about it on my last podcast, is a lot of us are waiting for permission. So we go seek out these mentors and these individuals when we have this inclination in our heart that says, yes, go. So it's more of a permission and a validating thing that people are pursuing more than
Mm.
a clarifying thing, is what I believe.
Okay. Okay. Very good. Very good. Well, before we go, giving you the platform, please share with our listeners. I mean, you guys have just heard how interesting he is and how wise he is. And that what I love is that you are truly doing something trying to help people, not just here's my product type of thing. And that's where my heart is educating and empowering people. So please tell our listeners how they can contact you, tell them about what you have to offer, your services, and definitely how to reach you, how to find you online and connect with you on various platforms.
So thanks so much for having me, Dr. Mill. It's been a pleasure. I would say you put in David Prosper on the internet, you will find me. And I'm known as the Clarity Guy. But where I live, as far as my site, is theclaritybrand.ai. And if you liked what I was talking about, it resonated with you, we're actually in the process of developing a decision intelligence software to help you make better decisions.
Wow.
And we have a wait list, and it comes out this fall. So theclaritybrand.ai. You can sign up there as and join the wait list. But social media, I would love to connect with you. I want to hear your story and let's vibe out.
Love it. Love it. Thank you again, David. Thank you for helping us understand that clarity is not simply something we wait to feel. It is something we can intentionally build into the way we make decisions. For everyone listening, remember that your decisions are designing your life, whether you make them consciously or by default. Pause, examine the pattern, and choose from the person you are becoming rather than the pressure of the moment. If you enjoyed this show, if you enjoyed this podcast, please, it's so important that you subscribe, that you like, that you share. And the biggie really is that you comment. You can say 2 words. You can ask ChatGPT to give you 2 words. But if you can just somehow two-finger type out a comment, it pushes us up in the algorithm and helps us reach more people to share this free motivating educational content. So help your girl out, like, subscribe, and share. Thank you for joining us on Perpetual Motion. Until next time, keep moving forward because when you change your words, you change your world. Thank you.